Carmen Johnson with Consumers Credit Union. We're so glad to have you here. We have been talking about a hot housing market, and I'll tell you what, it's so hot that you need the experts in to help you cool it down a little bit, get a little bit relaxed, and get that home. And for us today, we have the greatest professionals. I'm so excited because they're going to tell you about building a team. And you think to yourself, well, you know what? All I really knew is I just need to find myself a realtor and be done with it. Or I can do Zillow, right? We are going to talk today with experts that are just so in the know, and they have been working together for over 10 years. And what that means is they're working together for you, the homeowner, and also the home seller. Today we have with us Mark Brace. He's a principal and owner at Brace Homes at Berkshire Hathaway, Michigan Homes and Real Estate. It is an incredible opportunity to learn from the expert. We also have with us our own Consumers Credit Union guru. He's a senior market manager and mortgages at Consumers Credit Union. Thanks so much for being with us, Gregg Teegardin. Thanks, you guys. Now, I have a feeling that you're more than just colleagues of working together to help homeowners. It sounds to me like, as we've been getting to know each other, that you're friends too, which is a really cool thing. Gregg, tell us a little bit about how you first met.
Well, it was back in my Founders Bank and Trust days over 10 years ago that Mark and I did our first deal together. It was a actually non-warrantable condo deal that I kind of carved out a niche for in the marketplace. Mark was looking for one of his buyers into a condo that was deemed non-warrantable, and I had a product for him. The rest is history.
Yeah, pretty much. It's funny when you brought that question up. I'm just thinking to myself, like, geez, that was so long ago. It's hard to almost remember.
Well, tell me something. How do you guys figure out, you just said non-warrantable, and for a homeowner or someone who's looking for a house, what does that even mean?
Yeah, so non-warrantable just means that, your standard conventional financing, you can't do that type of property. A non-warrantable condo. It means the development itself doesn't meet the criteria for Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. They have a long list of guidelines that you have to meet, and a lot of them don't. A lot of the newer ones don't. So you need to find a bank, credit union that can do them, and we do them at Consumers as well. That's something I've always made sure I have in my back pocket, because that comes up more often than not, especially for condos downtown Grand Rapids. Majority of those developments are deemed non-warrantable.
Mark, when you first met Gregg, if you back up the bus here a little bit, what is interesting to me is that right now we are at the hottest market, and it sounds to me like you both really understand that there's ways that you can listen to what the buyer's need is, listen to what the seller's need is, and try to find a path that works. Is that true, Mark?
There's not a one shoe fits all setup for anybody. Everyone's unique and different, has their unique challenges. And so, depending on if they're a buyer or seller, just making sure that you've got them aligned with all the right stuff to make the process smooth. So whether it's the lender, whether it's like, what's the path for them to move? Do they have to sell first to buy? Can they buy before selling? Is it a bridge loan? Just kind of figuring out what works best for them, creating the path, and kind of navigating the process. I wish there was a one shoe fits all, like, hey, this is just how we do it, and then it would be easy. But you got to kind of turn to your professionals to help. Like, hey, there's lots of options. There's many ways to do it. What's going to be right for us?
So, Mark, how important is the mortgage loan officer partnership in that realm? People they know what a realtor is, and they know that, hey, I'm going to reach out to Mark. He's my guy. But they may not, in their back of their minds, go, I know exactly that I need a mortgage loan officer, one that I know and I can trust.
There's a lot involved with having a really great mortgage lender. The reputation that they carry within the real estate industry is extremely helpful when a realtor is sitting down with a seller and evaluating, 5, 10, 20, 40 offers. Like, how do they know the right ones to pick? And, if you can share your insight and experience about how, previous times you've worked with these companies, it can help a seller make a decision saying, hey, this is a great mortgage company. They're local. it definitely, it carries a lot of weight. You know, if a mortgage company has a great reputation and the local realtors know that, it's extremely helpful when you're presenting offers with on a property and or evaluating them.
So you have worked with Gregg, our mortgage loan officer at Consumers now for 10 years. Tell me about how important that type of a relationship is, not just on the buyer seller side, but just for you, you just mentioned trust. It seems to me that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, if Gregg says someone's good to go, like I don't even have to question it. He's like, they're good. I'm like, all right. And that's it. I don't even have to worry. There's nothing else. Gregg's like, they're good. All right, great. We're good.
And Gregg, is it the same way? Is it a two-way street there?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just about asking the right questions up front. I know that Mark does a great job of preparing them, before he sends them my way on what kind of questions I may be asking, what's going to help get the deal done. But it's very important and critical, to spend the time either on the phone or, we have a great application at Consumers that's very thorough. You don't want to have a curveball later on in the process, 3 weeks deep, something that you missed that causes the deal to go south, and now you got some people that are pretty upset with you.
Well, and here that then brings back, the home buyer or the home seller. And when you talk about getting a deal closed on time, I can't remember a time where it has been so crazy in the sense of, people are now selling their houses and saying, we're going to do the open house and we're going to take the offers until 6:00 and that's it. I mean, it's just a crazy time. How do you work with the home buyer and the home seller to really give a sense of, here's the direction, here's what you must have in advance. Let's make sure we can get this deal done.
Again, it's about, I call them the 3 C's, which, is going through their credit, seeing if there's any potential hurdles there to overcome. We do have a great system. If somebody's off by 10 points from getting approved or being able to get even a little bit better of an interest rate, I'm able to put them through this credit repair system, and within a week's time, I can get scores boosted. So that's big. Income, is a huge factor. So just making sure that they know to stay with their current employer throughout the closing. They're self-employed, going through that side of things, making sure they're good to go. Generally, we need a 2-year history on that. So, and then of course the down payment. We have some great zero down products at Consumers that a lot of other institutions don't offer. We're unique in that way. We can get certain buyers closed that may not have the means to get the loan done with another lender. So it's all about the due diligence up front, asking the right questions, and following up.
Well, obviously then the homeowner or the home seller both really need to know who their team is. Mark, how important is that?
When you kind of get into the process, it seems easy, like you pick a house and then you're done, and that's totally like the beginning. That's like picking a football team at the beginning of the game, but now you got to play the game. The whole thing is the managing that 30 days or so, everything that has to take place. If a lender doesn't have the mortgage done in time, I don't think a lot of people realize they literally can lose the home. Like, there's no law that says that a seller has to extend a purchase agreement. So if you're working with a lender that, can't guarantee, or, you don't have the confidence that they're going to get it done in time, you could potentially lose the house over the lender you chose. Let alone like you're coordinating so many things in life, like utilities and movers and everything else that you have to do. There's so many little problems that can happen if things just don't go the way they're supposed to go. I can't stress enough, like, how important it is to have that confidence in your team that, like, they're going to do what they say they're going to do, so that you can go from start to finish as easy as possible. Yeah.
So 10 years is a long time that you have worked together. Gregg, tell us about maybe one of the most memorable experiences that you had.
Yeah, so it's actually one of my neighbors. Was a New Zealander, and he had to move back to New Zealand. So he had to go there, and his family was still here, his wife and kids. And one of the supposed top realtors had their home listed, wasn't Mark, but had their home listed for 6 months that they were under contract. And I would drive by every day and see the sign and surprised it was a beautiful house, hadn't sold. So then we ended up at a block party together and was chatting with them. They knew I was in mortgages and they were unhappy with, obviously their house hadn't sold yet and they're getting down to the wire of everything had to be lined up for his wife to join them. So I referred him to Mark. Thankfully the listing expired with the previous realtor. Mark gave him some tips on what to do with the house. They did it. They listened to him, and then in 2 weeks, he had the house sold. He had a for sale sign out there.
Wow.
Speaks volumes, and I can't tell you how many times that's been the case with Mark.
You're blushing over a podcast, Mark. It's crazy to see.
Now that he brings that up, I remember, he was leaving the country. So like we were like working on getting embassy appointments lined up in New Zealand. And
well, but doesn't that speak to that extra attention that is needed for any homeowner or buyer? It's excellent customer service, you know, it's the service that goes above and beyond. And it just happens to be in what is someone's number one hoped for dream, right? Is their home. So it's an amazing journey. Hey, Greg, quickly, what do you think are the most important things right now in such a hot market? You said in the last 3 years it's been this way. Do you think it's going to cool off? People say possibly. I don't know.
No, I mean, Mark can speak to this too, but the inventory just continues to shrink out there of homes that are listed. The supply is just not there, but the demand is crazy high still, especially with COVID. We have a lot of people returning to Grand Rapids that were in bigger cities, want to get back, close to family with everything going on. But yeah, I don't foresee it cooling off anytime soon. We need more listings. The ones that we have, you got to have a great team working with you. You got to have somebody that's reputable, that's got a name in the market, because the listing agents are weighing in on that heavily. When they have 30 offers in front of them, if they have, a pre-approval letter from an out-of-state lender that they've never worked with before, it's hard for them to advise their seller to take that deal. And we take that seriously. We take that closing date at consumers. I take it very seriously. We got to hit that mark. It means everything.
And Mark, what do you think is the greatest tip someone who is considering either listing their house or making that change? What should they have in their mind during this time, especially if they're trying to buy also or are going to go into the market to purchase something new?
Wow, I don't know if I can sum everything up into like one of the greatest tips. I mean, there's so many different things you can talk about, but I think what I would say is, in this market, really trying to figure out what your path is probably the most important. Whether or not you can buy before you sell, if you have to sell to buy, and if you have to sell to buy, do you have a temporary living arrangement in place, apartment, family, friends, something. The bridge loan has been a really popular product because, as the perception in the market is selling's not as challenging as buying. It's a lot harder to find where you're going to go. So there's a lot of fear and like, well, I don't want to put my home on the market because I don't know where I'm going to go. And that bridge loan is a really cool product to allow them to buy first, and then we can sell. And in the meantime, part of the whole strategy is if we move them in a bridge loan pattern and we're going to be having them buy first, that whole period of time, whether it's 1 to 6 to 12 months, we're spending all that quality time doing what we need to do to the house to prepare it for top dollar. I think preparation is something that a lot of people don't focus on as much as they should. The strategy is probably the most important thing, and really just kind of focusing on what's the path for me. And then I think, what I'm saying is already coming with a level of expertise to it, but, making sure that you are aligning yourself with amazing professionals that, have been there, have done that. And this is not, necessarily their first rodeo, and they can guide you through all the hurdles.
Greg, how important is the team behind you at consumers? You mentioned that target date, and it sounds to me like there's a lot of moving pieces to get that lending not only on the books, but hitting the right date.
Yeah, having the right team behind, especially as a mortgage lender, is everything. You know, I have Sarah Marlowe as my loan assistant. She gets us from A to B. You know, I bring the deals in the door, get things locked in with the rate, make sure we have everything set in the system, you know, the right way, and then she gets the documents put together. So we always have that closing date in mind down the road, and we're have target dates prior to that we're trying to hit for getting the appraisal in by and getting all the clients' docs.
So last question. The pandemic shuts down the world, and all of a sudden open houses for a while were not open houses, they were closed. How important has technology and the growth of technology? We have the Consumers Credit Union Fast App Mortgage. How important has that become? Has that been a game changer for documents and finding the documents and keeping them all in one place?
Yeah, absolutely. Through my webpage, I'm able to send a link to buyers where they can go right on and input all their information. Some people still prefer to have the conversation on the phone, which can take 15 minutes on average. Preferably, we have them go into the Fast app just because they're able to put in their, authorize the credit to be pulled. Everything can be done right there and then within 10 minutes of them going in. It's very user friendly. If anyone have issues with getting on there and inputting their info, as soon as they complete it, I get a trigger email text that it's done. I just go in there, check the credit, everything's good, see if there's any potential hurdles that I see with their employment information or residency. I'll either send them a quick email or text, and we're off and running. They can upload all their documents right there as well with their pay stubs and W-2s, so they don't have to come into the office and bring in a stack of paperwork with them.
And Mark, on your end, the video technology that is new, the making sure that you can see a home that you're trying to present. Wow, what a change.
Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot in my office because we were already doing everything electronically and digital and video home tours and stuff if we needed it, but it just kind of forced us to do a little bit more of it. There's not going to ever change the fact of the importance of putting the buyer in the home, because the intrinsic feel that they have, I don't think that's ever really going to get replaced, because I don't think you can artificially generate like, hey, this is the house for me.
Well, it sounds just like relationships, right? We can do all of this as we can via Zoom. And we can all do, non-face-to-face, but it really is the face-to-face and those personal relationships that make things happen, not only personally, but also professionally. And the both of you have proven that. So thank you so much for sharing your time today and your expertise.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, everybody, I'll tell you what, home buying is it, and we'll be glad to help you with any of the questions that you have. Just contact us at Consumers. And don't forget, you can also send a topic or an expert our way. We'd love to talk with them. I'm Lynn Jarman-Johnson with Consumers Credit Union. Thank you, Jake Esselink, for all of your production skills. And I hope everybody has a safe and happy week this week.